And so, after all the anticipation and hype, Game Week 29 is here. And now this is where FPL managers show what they are made of. Because this year those rolling transfers mean there are several viable strategies. And how we navigate those absent players will set the tone for their big run-in. And I have a few strategies in mind and I will get to them very shortly. But first, let's have a quick look at the position we begin the game week in. And as you can see, Game Week 29 will not be my first blank game week of this season, because Captain Salah aside, my lords have flattered to deceive yet again. The Gakpo gamble was punished with his absence, Dango was benched, Kluivert had a goal ruled out, Palmer missed a penalty, Trent conceded to the worst team in the league, Gabriel again did nothing, Isak played to avoid injury, and Jared Bowen looks like yet another failed transfer. A campaign that promised so much looks like it's slipping away from me, and given my market manoeuvrings have been so poor this season, it's actually remarkable I remain in the position I am. Indeed, it could have been an awful lot worse had the Appleby assassin not struggled himself, but even in a quiet week by his recent standards, he still managed to take 5 more bites out of my advantage. However, that did come at the expense of losing a transfer, and though I quite like his signing of Beto in the short term, the solitary extra point he secured for the assassin may not be enough, given how it limits his options next week, both in terms of player turnover and positional moves. Indeed, given that the centre forward is a key target position for my team, seeing the assassin selections early feels like a big advantage. Unless of course he plans to sell the greatest striker in all of world football, but surely he's not going to make such an obvious error. If he does, then I do feel that would work out in my favour, but my mind has to be on my own team, because my season started going down the pan the moment my focus shifted to reacting to others rather than blazing my own trail. And though we are limping into the blank game week and that wild card can't come soon enough, I have to remember that I am in this position on merit. The cojones I showed to go against all the big names and wild card in game week 10, well, that paid off big style. And though I have faltered recently, now we have the opportunity to show our tactical nous once again.
You guys talk about being students of the game. I am the game, JR.
And though I'm not going to go deep into my overriding chip strategy just yet, what I will say is that the FPL lads gave you a comprehensive overview last week, and I strongly urge you to watch that video before formulating your own master plan, because sometimes your biggest rivals can turn out to be your greatest inspiration. So, to my Game Week 29 plans, let's face it, the question on everyone's lips is, should I sign Erling Haaland? And I'll be honest with you, like I always am, as it stands I have no real interest in the lad. Yes, I do have a plan to get him in if I so desire, and it's not particularly difficult when Cole Palmer is in such dire form. If I want to avoid a hit, then Palmer and Gakpo to Haaland and Nwaneri is a simple, if somewhat uninspiring way to secure the Norse force. However, that would leave me with only 10 players, and of those 10 players, one is an Ipswich defender and the other is Dango. So you can see the problem. There doesn't seem to be many avenues to points, so I'm not overly keen on that strategy. If I permit myself a hit though, then things get a bit more interesting. If I sell Gakpo, Palmer and Alexander-Arnold, then in addition to Haaland that can bring in Morgan Gibbs-White with his 89 points in 14 game weeks and 34 in his last 5. And I can strengthen my defence with Aitnori, Milenkovic or Ola Reiner. Now Aitnori has the best fixtures, but Wolves without Cunha just aren't the same team. And for all Aitnori's attacking potential, he has just 3 assists since game week 10. It doesn't feel the best move. Forest on the other hand, they are solid. They refuse to falter in the chase for glory. Milenkovic or Reiner seem the perfect signings for my defence. The question is which one? And this is where it gets a bit more tricky, because my closest rival in the League of Gentlemen has Milenkovic, and part of me thinks get the big Serb and shut the assassin down, and part of me thinks get Ola Reiner and take him on. But what I really need to do is divorce my rivals' teams from my thinking, because ultimately I just need to get some points on the board. And if I get Milenkovic, that makes game week 30's transfer easy, because I can then sell Hall for Munoz. So for my team, the hit to switch Palmer to Haaland makes an awful lot of sense. With that being said, a hit for Haaland isn't the most exciting of plays. It just does not set my soul alight. After all, it's not like Haaland is in imperious form. He's only got more than 1 return in a match twice since game week 4. And the fact is, if you take out those opening 4 game weeks, then Chris Wood has outscored him by 41 points this season. You take out those opening 4 game weeks and he's 13 points behind Bruno Fernandes. He's 22 points adrift of Cunha, and he's a massive 37 points shy of Mbumo. And the insane truth is, if you take out those opening 4 game weeks, then Erling Haaland is only 3 points ahead of none other than Jordan Pickford. And I'm not even convinced Man City beat Brighton, so I'm far from set on bringing in the Norse force, even with that Leicester game in game week 30.
What the hell are you doing?
Bored.
What? Bored.
No, if I'm to take a hit, I'm far more inclined to use it for a little South Coast switcheroo. You see, if I was to keep Cole Palmer and instead sell Dango for Gibbs-White, then I could bring in Evan Nilsson up front. And you may think I can't cover Haaland with Evan Nilsson, and you may well be right. He's only got 6 goals in 18 starts after all. But Bournemouth are banging form. They've got 2 home games against Brentford and Ipswich. Even if Cole the goal is out of form, I'd back him to get more points starting than I would Dango off the bench. Furthermore, Evan Nilsson over Haaland enables the sale of Hall, whilst also retaining enough funds to do O'Shea to Munoz in game week 30, as well as giving Trent the maximum time to recover. Yes, Evan Nilsson over Haaland could well go wrong, but it may well be the move that swings the momentum back in my favour, especially when it forces me into an alternate captaincy. If I really fancied gambling, I could even forego the hit, take a chance on Dango and get Strand Larsen, Joao Pedro, Johan Wissa or Big Man Beto, all of whom are decent options this week and have various merits. But I do like that Evan Nilsson play, and at time of recording that is where I'm likely to go. However, I could not look myself in the mirror if I did not discuss the possibility of the wild card. And look, there are some half decent drafts out there that might tempt you, and I know Big Andy has been discussing the merits of the move all week, but it's simply not something I can advocate. Wildcarding before a 2.5 week break featuring international and cup games, it's a recipe for disaster. It's It's trying too hard to be clever. It's overthinking of the highest magnitude. There are simply too many variables at play, and in this game where success can never be guaranteed, you want to minimize those variables as much as possible. And don't come at me with, oh, but if I wildcard now I can build my transfers up for the doubles. Because we've known game week 29 would be a blank for weeks, and you've got yourself in a position where you want to wildcard because you don't have the transfers. So you tell me exactly what would be different for game weeks 32, 33 and beyond. If you could roll the transfers, you would have done it already. So why are you backing yourself to do it now? It's just asking for trouble. No, whatever position you are in and whatever trips you have, wildcarding in game week 29 is a mistake.
Oh, sod of dog, I've made the wrong decision, haven't I?
To me, it's become very clear that loading up on players like Munoz, Mateta and Watkins a few game weeks back and playing with that free hit 29 in mind, that would have yielded far more points than what I've ended up with. If I had done that, then my free hit team would have looked something like this, and I'd be a lot more confident about getting the points this week. And you might debate a few of those picks. I mean, I'm not convinced City beat Brighton, let alone keep a clean sheet, but whatever alternatives you prefer, I just don't think there's enough points on offer to justify the free hit in isolation. The true benefits of free hit 29 will only really be seen by those who committed early, not just from this game week alone, but from the ones in the past and the one in game week 30. So if, like me, the thought of the free hit is a reactionary move, I recommend just eating the lost points this week and coming back stronger after the break. It's never pleasant when it works out like that, but sometimes it takes a bad game week to set up for 3 or 4 good ones.
A single grain of rice can tip the scale. One man may be the difference between victory and defeat.
So in conclusion, with all the factors considered, this is what I expect my team to look like come the deadline. And let's be real, it's far from an ideal team, I know that. I'll have Pickford against Bowen, I'll have Gabriel against Palmer, I'll have an Ipswich defender against a top scoring striker. I'll be starting 4 points down. It's not ideal at all. And even if I switch out Palmer for Fernandes to raise that point ceiling, that's still a further 4 points deficit, and I simply can't burn those points because my lead at the top of the League of Gentlemen is already down to 47, and I could take a chance on Dango, sacrifice some team value on Isak and go with this team, which would enable me to bench that Ipswich defender. But not only would I still be 4 points down, I'd be setting myself up for a horrible game week 30 where I'd need my beloved Newcastle to blank, and I don't particularly wish to do that. So it looks like Evan Nilsson instead of Haaland for my laws, and a Saturday afternoon spent hiding behind the sofa, hoping beyond hope that we can limit the damage. But there is one important thing to remember, and that is that football is a peculiar game at times. Sometimes the weaker team on paper can get the win if they play with courage, and with Mighty Mo out of the equation this week, perhaps that captain's armband can save the day. If I did make my likely -4 into a -8 and I captain Fernandes, could that give me the edge I need? Can this weekend replicate game week 29 from last season, officially the worst game week in the entire history of FPL, and limit the damage to my team? Maybe that could be my best chance of success. However you look at it, it's going to be a tough weekend. There's no denying that, but there is always a chance. There is always a glimmer of hope. There is always a possibility of bringing Goliath to his knees. If you're one of those Davids out there prepared to make the big balls calls. And look, I'm an emotional guy. I make no secret of that. And in recent weeks I have been struggling. This game has beaten me down. Those FPL gods raised me up to the heavens and then they sent me crashing back down to earth. And now I'm grasping for solutions. The desperation seeps out of my every pore. My entire sense of self-worth hangs in the balance, and I no longer know if I can turn it around. But I've got to try. I've got to keep on fighting. I've got to remember that for 21 game weeks I absolutely nailed this season. And yes, the third quarter has seen me take a pummeling. But sometimes in football you have to hang on with 11 men behind the ball for a while. You've got to stem the tide. You've got to repel your rivals before launching that killer counter-attack. And yes, I may be on the ropes, but after this game week the bell is going to ring. And then 16 days later we're back with 9 rounds to put it all on the line. I'm not down for the count just yet, and whatever happens this weekend I'm getting up off that canvas. And if my beloved Newcastle can lift that gypsy curse, and if they can defeat the best team in the land at Wembley, well then this could be the game week I'll always remember. And I do believe Howe's heroes will do just that. For months now I've had this image in my head, and it's one of Tonali's redemption culminating in a Wembley winner. A self-inflicted extended ban ending with a Cantona-esque redemption. And if I can believe my beloved Newcastle will shake off the superstitions, the self-doubt and the shackles of history, then maybe I should believe my lords can do the same. And maybe, just maybe, this is the season where us northern souls end up proving to ourselves that we do belong, that we are good enough, and that we are worthy of being victorious. Maybe after so many years of coming up short, this is the season where all the magpies swoop for the silver. And so ahead of what could be the game week I'll remember for the rest of my life, let me just say, may all your transfers be successes, may all your arrows be green, and may those FPL gods be in your favour. Make your Sunday roast out of the liver bird by hitting those like and subscribe buttons, and we will see you next time.
FPL Nightmare got me pulling out more, yeah. I'm the greatest football manager to ever grace the old armchair, but the FPL gods hate me, and no one seems to care that my points are only average, and my ranking is not fair.